So thank you for joining again today as a part of our series of conversations leading up to our hackathon on October 22nd through the 24th. Today, our discussion is around ideas around small business and support and entrepreneurship. And how can we use this moment in time that we have this huge influx of resources through the American Rescue Plan, also other local tax dollars that we have available to us to really spur a strong entrepreneurship in the city of Elyria. When I first got elected, this was one of my strategies in terms of how to create a vibrant economy, how to create jobs, was creating an ecosystem around entrepreneurship. Prior to this role, I was president of the Urban League, and we did a lot of work around small business development and worked with a lot of folks in the entrepreneurship support ecosystem. And three things that we really identified that were a need were capital, access to capital. So if you had an idea that you just needed to start up, or you needed to scale, or you needed to fulfill purchase orders, et cetera, that having that access to capital, having the right connections to contract opportunities. We saw that a lot of folks just weren't aware of like contract opportunities, especially doing business with government entities. At the time, one of the big projects we were doing here in the city is there was a $150 million project to rebuild all the elementary and middle schools, and trying to connect local businesses to those contract opportunities was quite a feat. And we only got a couple through, and we learned a lot about what it takes to make it in those projects. And then the last piece is just capacity. We saw that a lot of small businesses, you had one individual that was the bookkeeper, the marketer, the HR specialist. So Jason, I see you raise your head, and then we're going to dig into your story too. And I would love for you to kick us off by sharing a little bit about your business. And again, a part of this process that we like to do, this hackathon is in partnership with Windstream, Case Western, Lorain County Community College, the Community Foundation of Lorain County, and Data Swift. And I'll let Irene introduce herself as well as a business owner and entrepreneur as well. Part of what we do in these exercises is talk about journeys. So either your individual journey or a journey of someone you know. And there's always so much to unpack when you talk through somebody's journey and those pain points they experienced. There's a lot of lessons and insights to be learned there. But let's go to Jason first. Jason, so if you can introduce yourself, talk about your small business, which I hate using the word small because, as you know, a business is a business. It's so the business that you're running. Talk a little bit about that, and then let's kind of unpack your journey.
Yeah, small business is definitely a deceiving term, especially when you get into some of them that have 500, 499 employees. That's not a small business. That's a big business. Anyways, name's Jason. I own auto details here in Elyria. I've been involved with auto details since 1996. So I started off here washing cars, worked my way up, taught myself how to do some electrical and, so on and so forth, moved up front, started working up front, eventually started running the store. Back in 2011, I had actually left here and went to go work for my great city of Elyria. I was in the communications department for about a year and a half. See, Frank didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yep. Was there for about a year and a half. And then the original owner of Auto Details actually passed away. So I was presented with an opportunity to leave the city, come back and purchase the business. I was very comfortable at the city. I loved my job. I loved everybody I worked with. Tough decision. My wife actually talked me into it. Part of it, I still had friends here that had worked here that were going to be jobless and left, wanting, obviously. So part of that was me coming back. I purchased the business, employed the old business owner's wife for a few years. For me personally, I had already knew everything about the business because I had worked here as an employee for so long. I was running the store day to day anyways when I had left here. So coming back, I was pretty confident that I knew what I was doing. Obviously, there was a few pitfalls here and there that I had to, get through. But short of that, I'm very blessed. As a business, we've been in Elyria since 1978. So we're working on our 43rd year. We are very, very lucky. We have a very solid customer base. even through the pandemic, I did not see much of a decline. I saw a 6% decline. Considering we were closed for 3 months in 2020, I'll take 6% all day long. So we have very loyal customers that make my job easy. But I jokingly, you had mentioned all the hats that we have to wear. You know, I'm a plumber one day, I'm an electrician the next day, I'm a bookkeeper one day. I mean, we do it all around here ourselves. So you do have to wear a lot of hats, and you do have to be up on a lot of different skills to run things nowadays. But keeps things interesting. It's a lot of work. You know, I'm going through some health stuff currently, I'm sure you know about, but that makes things a little more difficult as well, a little bit of a challenge. But I have great employees. Finding employees is a bit of a challenge nowadays. But most of my guys that are here have been here a long time. I have employees that have been here 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. Other than a new guy I just hired, I think my least tenured employee is working on his 3rd year. So all my guys have been here a long time. And typically when we do hire someone, they do stick around because it is a good place to work. You know, I'm not a Nazi to work for or anything like that. So guys typically get along. We all get along well, and it's a good place to work. But as far as some of the stuff you mentioned, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine having to start a business from scratch. Knowing what I know now and what it takes to run a business, it has to be so hard to get something off the ground with zero clientele and starting fresh. And I can't imagine doing that. So any help that you can provide to those people that are out there trying to do that, I'm sure would be welcome.
Yeah, well, let's unpack your journey here, and welcome, David. Thanks for joining. Let's do the round of intros, but I want to jump right back into this journey right here. But let's do the round intros. Irene, if you want to go ahead and kick us off, then we'll do the round robin.
Hi, I'm Irene. I'm CEO of DataSwift, and we run a rather sophisticated and very advanced infrastructure for personal data accounts where everybody gets to own their data, much like the way you own your money in personal bank accounts. We believe that's going to change the world because then you can actually start from the real source, which is the individual, and the individual gives the data to companies. I started as an entrepreneur in 1989. It shows you how old I am. I was thrown into it at a very young age of 26. When my dad says, "This sounds like a great idea. I've bought this company for $1. Why don't you go run it? Because, you know, it was losing $500,000 a year. Go turn it around. Here's $1 million." I said, "Okay, well, how hard can that be?" So I took $1 million, went into the company. It was losing $500,000 a year. Its turnover were about 50 over million a year. It's a travel company. And I guess a lot of people didn't want to work for a 26-year-old kid at that time because half my staff resigned when I came in. And also my dad didn't tell me that when he gave me $1 million, that the company was in debt of 2.5 million. And so, that became a 2-year debt negotiation with my suppliers, got that turned around, still had no equity markets to raise money from, you know, so you don't know where the capital markets are in 1991. There's no PowerPoint deck, you know, there's no startup. So I decided I'd branch off into cruise ships to get cash flows and deposits in, which I did, and got lots of deposits in, and managed to turn that company around by diversifying to cruise ships in 92. And then I decided, I went back to my dad and said, "You should get yourself a proper CEO. I'm going to go off do my own thing." I took a little investment memorandum and raised $10 million to run my own cruise ship. Realized that it was very difficult to run a cruise ship in Southeast Asia. So I had to run a casino on board. So I ran a casino on board for about 2 years to get to a turnover of about 250 million, promptly ran out of cash very quickly, and then sold the company, lost about 80%. And then, of course, after that, I checked into the university thinking I was going to write all about it, but then forgot about writing all about it and became 15 years as an academic. There we go. I'm back full circle again, being an entrepreneur.
I love that.
I'm just waiting for the movie to come out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's quite the life story there.
It's a weird story.
Josh, we're going to you next.
All right. So yeah, I was born in 1989.
That's how old I am. Oh my God.
But as Frank said, I'm based in Northern England. I'm an entrepreneur of 4 years. Before that, I was a theatre designer working around the world, having a lovely time but earning no money. I'm kind of, so in a way, Irene's built the infrastructure, and what I'm trying to work out is how to web the infrastructure to the modern world, and looking at economies of transfer and how our data systems can enable entrepreneurs like Jason, and working all the way through your story, Jason. It occurred to me that you're working in the city of Elyria or around it, and you're not just the provider of jobs, you're also providing purpose in the city as well for many, directly and indirectly. And is there a way that we can start measuring that data, and that data being a value resource for yourself, for your company, your employees, and also as we look at this hybrid environment that we're now working in. So yeah, I'm kind of like the thinker and the dreamer, and I'm still figuring out how to make money. But you know, ideas first.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. That's beautiful. Kevin.
Sound check, can you hear me?
It's a little distant, but we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Frank. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Kevin Carroll. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Placement Loop, which develops software to help workers improve their well-being. And so we solve for career well-being with the idea that if we can solve for that, it leads to solving for financial well-being. And when we solve for financial well-being, we're able to meet our expenses and save enough. And our feeling is if we're able to meet our expenses and save enough, we'll be able to afford the time to invest in the higher non-financial well-being factors like health, social, and community well-being factors. So that's my quick background on Placement Loop and myself.
Thanks, Kevin. And David?
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. You want to give us a little bit about your business and your role in that business?
I'd be happy to. So I'm third generation, and we have several different divisions, primarily around engineering materials for construction and industrial applications. We have a lightweight concrete and a flooring underlayment division that goes into helping renovate buildings for mixed use, multi-use, high rise, things like that. And we have a lightweight division that has a ton of different lightweight materials used for everything from explosives to lightweight concrete to shooting bag fill to offshore oil rigs and stuff like that. Then we have a roofing division as well for roofing granules and sand and aggregates.
And what's the name of your business?
Shabel Tech.
Shabel Tech. And where is it located?
Right now in Westlake.
All right. So thank you, David, for joining as well. So, so going back to Jason's journey, and now we're going to go into to David's as well in terms of because there's a theme around succession planning and around acquisition of companies. So one thing that I've noticed in Elyria is that we have a whole lot of employers whose kids don't want their business. They're small 10, 15 people shops, and the child doesn't want the business. And if within the next 5 years, these companies are either just going to close because nobody in the company wants to purchase it, or we're going to have to find some strategy for people to acquire these businesses. So Jason, that was not directly your journey, but it was very similar to your journey of identifying a company that didn't have a necessarily succession plan, and you purchased it and then took it on. So can you talk a little bit about your decision-making process on that? What were some of the barriers you faced in getting the capital to purchase the business? And can you talk to us through about that?
I was in a unique situation in the fact that the business did not have much value to me. Without getting into crazy specifics, there wasn't a ton of inventory. They didn't own the real estate. They leased it. So the only value of the business was the customer base, essentially, to me. And because I had known the customer base for 20 years prior, to me personally, the doors of this shop could have closed. I could have come along, talked to the building owner, released the building, opened it under a slightly different name, and probably retained 90% of the customers. So the problem with the previous owner that they had is they did not have a succession plan in place. They had 4 kids that were not interested in the business. So her hands were tied, and she basically said, either you buy it or I'm going to close the doors. So that put me in an advantageous position as far as negotiating a purchase price. As far as capital goes,
can we unpack that real quick though? So, so that decision point right there, where you said, all right, how did you get the knowledge to know how much a business was worth? You know, I went to MBA. I got my MBA to learn this stuff. So how did you learn this stuff?
That's still a very wishy-washy formula. You talk to 10 different financial guys, and you'll get 10 different answers of how you figure out the worth. You know, a lot of guys will tell you it's 3 times, you know, income, you know, it's just a quick, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of different formulas available for that. So she gave me a number, basically. I didn't like the number. I countered with a number, and we had such a good relationship. I would consider her to be a mother figure, more so than my own mother, actually. So we had a very, very close relationship. There was really no negotiating. I offered my number. She said, great, I'll take it. And that was the end of it.
And how did you consult with anybody to know what a good number was?
I did. So I have 2 friends that are accountants, basically, that I had, you know, small chats with them. And then I have another gentleman who's a financial advisor, who I had been paying, you know, for my personal retirement accounts and so on and so forth, since I was younger, that I had chatted with as well. And we all kind of came into agreement that, you know, it's not worth much to me because I could reopen the business and retain those same customers, essentially. So I was in a unique situation. I dread the day where I have to sell this business. I think brick and mortar is dying to a degree, unless you're service-based. So I think that's what's keeping us afloat is, you know, 90% of our business is service-based as opposed to retail sales. Yeah, the day that comes, I'm preparing. I purchased the real estate a few years ago. So, I mean, ultimately, if I don't sell the business as it is, I still have the real estate to offer to another, you know, mechanic that comes along or anybody else that may want to run a business out of here. So I've, you know, planned for that, not being able to sell the business and still being able to hire. Obviously, if I can sell it, it's a bonus, but, you know, you never knew.
Now let's talk about capital. And you don't have to use, if you're not comfortable necessarily disclosing your process, you can talk about someone else's, but the journey of getting the capital to then acquire it. So you got your number, you talked to your advisors and said, hey, here's a number. You had some people with expertise in your network, accountants, financial planners. All right, so you got some expertise and some confidence in your number. Then how do you go raise the capital for that number?
So when I bought the business, I was in my early 30s, and most people in their early 30s are not financially sound. You know, they may just now be starting, you know, maybe some retirement, stuff like that. I am so grateful in the fact that the gentleman who passed away, who owned the business, pounded into my head when I was 18 years old, start saving, start saving, start saving. So that's the one thing that I did right younger in life. Is I did start saving early. So when the time came and I was ready to buy the business, I did not have all the money. So again, I told you we had a very close relationship. So we made a deal between the 2 of us where I gave her 50% down up front and she essentially financed the other 50%. It worked well because she worked for me for the next 5 years. So she was here anyways, and she was comfortable in the fact where she saw the financials every day because she was kind of my bookkeeper. So she was confident knowing that the money was coming in, where the money was going. So she could kind of keep an eye on things while she was getting her 50% back, basically. I had 10 years to pay that back. I paid it back in 3 years. So, I mean, she was obviously elated with that. So after 3 years, I was free and clear. The business was mine. She was happy with the deal. She still had a job, basically. I was still paying her to, you know, work here for the next few years until she was ready to leave. So again, super unique situation. Most, I'm sure, do not go that simple. But again, going to get capital, if I didn't have her here for that other 50% to finance that, I would have been at a bank. Again, buying the existing business, coming up with a business plan, and so on and so forth is pretty easy compared to starting on the ground floor. So I'm confident I still could have gone to the bank and got the other 50%. But yeah, not everybody's in that situation. So if you are starting something small, like, everyone wants to do these little small businesses downtown Elyria, whether it's a, I don't know, a cookie store or a dog biscuit store or whatever, it doesn't take a ton of capital. I was looking at needing, half to $750,000, where a lot of these people can start these businesses for 10,000. So, these ARP funds, you can set up grant programs and so on and so forth if you want to do that. And when you're just starting out, 10,000 is a huge number. I mean, that is so helpful, to where buying an existing business and you need $500,000 or $1 million, that's a little harder to obtain and create a grant program for. But some of these people, just getting in and maybe buying a POP system, or, I mean, these small things that are, somebody who doesn't have any money, $3,000 for a POP system that's a big chunk of change. If they had a small grant program, they could use that to get started. I mean, that would certainly be helpful.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Any other questions y'all got for Jason? Again, so a couple things I heard unpacking was, one, this idea about having a grant program, the difference between the acquisition entrepreneur and the startup entrepreneur, and the different, capital that may be required and needed. The other piece I heard was the power of relationship, so even as you talked about the downtown businesses, how do these entrepreneurs build relationships with the people who own the facility, so that they can work out agreements that, hey, I'll give you, if you, and I started a coffee shop when I was the president of the Urban League, and we had an agreement of, like, we would get the first 3 months free, and then reduced rate, and then it went to the full rate. So I think sometimes people assume you have to have it all at the beginning for it to work, and sometimes just based on a relationship and negotiation, you can create yourself an on-ramp. So having that relationship is critical. And then just, again, your network that you had around you in terms of making some of those sound decisions.
Even having somebody, a source, you just mentioned negotiating your lease. There's people that don't even realize that's an option. They would call a landlord downtown and say, hey, I'm interested in your property. And he says, I rented it $850 a month. And they're like, oh, okay, thanks. And they, maybe they can only afford $500 a month. And then that's the end of the conversation. They don't even realize that they should, maybe come back and say, hey, okay, $850 a month, and just mention something like you just said, say, hey, can I get the first 2 months for free? And then, split those 2 months over the next, 10 months of the lease. I mean, there's options there. And the people that are sitting on all these properties are more than willing to listen to those options, to get the place filled, but if there's nobody there to give them that advice, or even offer the suggestion to try, a lot of times they're just giving up before it even starts,
Yep.
And
Yeah,
Jason, I love what you said about how you.
David.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
No, go for it. No.
I love what you said about how you built a relationship with the seller, and how you did the seller finance. I'm hearing that that's a lot more of a common theme.
Yeah, being the business owner themselves, I mean, especially depending on what the economy's doing, you almost have to be willing to look at something like that if you want to truly sell your business. I mean, you can't just take it completely off the table, because, if there may be buyers that come along that, would be good buyers, providing you offer them some sort of chance, at financing, so it definitely has to be considered if you're selling a business.
Jason, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You said that you think that the brick and mortar and what you're doing is kind of not going to be the future. Have you thought of diversifying? I mean, your auto detail. Could you just
we don't just clean cars here. We do window tinting, we do remote starts, we do a lot of electrical installs, we do towing, we do municipalities. Elyria is one of my good customers. Every time they buy a new vehicle, they're coming down and buying, protection services, seat covers, ladder racks, tonneau covers, toolboxes. So the way the business is set up, a lot of what we do is seasonal. Detailing is seasonal. It's a spring, summer, fall thing. In the wintertime, we don't do a lot of detailing. However, our remote starters are huge for us in the wintertime, where that makes up, that slow time. Same thing with window tint. It's a seasonal thing. So we have, over the years, I've seen so many shops come and go, but most of those shops have been detail only, window tint only, car audio only. And they can't survive the down periods where we have managed to outlast everybody because we have diversified. We do offer a lot of different services.
Have you looked at diversifying beyond auto? I mean, just some ridiculous notion of drone detailing, for example.
Yeah, so we've looked at getting into RV detailing. Airplane detailing is a big market. The post office actually approached us to handle their fleet of vehicles. So it does go beyond just automotive. Same thing with the electrical installations. There's anything, we know when I worked for the city in the communications department, my job was to install all the lighting on all the, utility vehicles and police vehicles and so on and so forth. However, we also handled, the traffic cabinets and, everything that was 24 volts or less in the city, IP cameras, intercom systems. So we are capable of doing all kinds of different stuff. As far as diversifying, I don't need to do any more. I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at. I could certainly open a second, a third, a fourth store. There is a demand for it in surrounding communities and areas. I just don't have it in me to run more stores. That's all.
Yeah, Jason, that's an interesting dilemma because you're not alone in that. There's been folks I've talked to because I've worked a lot with small business owners who just got a successful business and they're like, "Yo, Frank, I'm good. Like,
yep,
let me enjoy life. I'm not."
I'm comfortable where I'm at. The health stuff that I have going on takes up quite a bit of my time. For those who don't know, I'm on dialysis. I have kidney failure and I do 4 dialysis treatments a week at 5 hours of treatment. So I spend 20 hours a week on a machine at home, and that really eats in. Luckily, I have fantastic employees. I have a right-hand man that runs things when I'm not here. But as far as me, even if I didn't have the health stuff going on, I had considered opening a second store in North Olmsted. For those who don't know, a neighboring community about 10 miles east of us. Large community, booming small businesses there, lots of traffic. It would certainly be a successful business, but having to staff it, obviously huge issue there. And then just splitting my time between stores, you're going to sacrifice customer service. A lot of people that walk in my front door, where's Jason? As much as they love my employees and know my manager, they still want to talk to me sometimes, no matter what. So, when I'm not here, even now, when I'm not here doing my treatments, I hear about it, oh, you're not there as much. I haven't seen you in a while. All these little comments come. And a lot of them don't know where I'm at. They're just assuming that I'm off sitting on a beach somewhere, drinking an umbrella drink, soaking in all my. Which it sounds
like you deserve to do, which it does sound like you deserve
in all my huge profits that I make. But yeah, it's not the way it is. But yeah, I am comfortable right now. And I have no plans to expand. I just hired my 9th employee. That's the most employees we've ever had in 43 years of being here.
Nice.
Essentially, that maxes out as far as room in the building. I don't have any more room to put anybody else. So we would never get any bigger short of me either opening another store or expanding my existing property.
No, thanks for sharing that. David, let's go to your journey. So you're a 3rd generation entrepreneur. So talk to us a bit about how you got involved in the business, and do you have a vision for acquiring the business and eventually being the chief of it, or talk to us about your journey?
I just gotta say, that's a tough act to follow. So thanks for setting me up like that. So my background is a little bit different. Out of school, I was a consultant for Deloitte Consulting. And so the smallest company I consulted for did about $100 billion a year in revenue. And so when I'd meet with my parents and holidays and birthdays and stuff, I listened to my dad talk about business because he was growing it. It's, well, who's your competition? Well, why don't you just buy them? Well, going from $100 billion to a small family company in west side of Cleveland, it's just a little bit different. So it's been a real orientation about my mindset's always growth. I'm blessed to have 2 kids just like you now, and congratulations on that again.
Thank you.
But I want to build something that they can be a part of and that their kids can be a part of as well. 3rd generation is very unique, but having gone through with the pandemic, I know you guys are talking about inventory. That's been a real challenge. And so what we're working on doing right now is having to really shore up our current supply and get backup suppliers and keep costing honest and do a lot of forecasting and really build out our warehouse in order to be able to meet demand. Because right now, a lot of customers, we're lucky that a lot of the stuff that we do is patent protected and proprietary and unique. So there's not a lot of competition that we really have. That's the good thing. The bad thing is you really have to show people what we have in order for them to say, ah, I get it. That makes sense. Now I can justify it. So for the last 2 years, we were built for growth, being lean, like not having a lot of inventory, and it's totally built for growth. But then when the pandemic hit, you can't go see people. You can't go show them. And just before, we'd been to a couple different trade shows. We got a lot of interest. And then everyone said, like, we're battening down the hatches and we're not taking on anything new. We just need to keep going what we've got. And we've been blessed. We've been able to stay steady or grow a little bit, but we're lucky to have several different divisions. So one division is way down, the other division is way up. The other division is we're doing a lot of research and development. So a lot of formulating, a lot of chemistry, a lot of supply chain optimization. And that's right now poised for launch. But it's been very difficult to launch because of different supply chain challenges. But Mayor, to your point, we are looking at growth because in our industries, there is a lot of consolidation and a lot of our suppliers, the owners are in their 60s and 70s and they have kids, but they want nothing to do with business. One of our partners, he hired a bunch of people that he was hoping would support his son. His son said, I want to be a crane operator. We need more of those, by the way. But he doesn't want to do anything with it. But he now has a good team. And so he doesn't have to run the business runs itself. So that's his succession plan. Our other suppliers, I let them know, hey, if you're ever approached by one of the big multinational companies, let me know, because I'd like to have the first right of refusal to keep it small and local, keep your team in place. Because having been on the other side, coming from a Fortune 100 company, a lot of times they just get cleaned out. And if you're a small family business, well, you're one of our partners or suppliers, you really care about the people. Like going back to what Jason said, it's all about the relationships. So I want to make sure from a person perspective, but also an ensuring supply chain perspective, we're probably going to have to do some acquisitions here in the near future. And then what we're seeing also,
we've experienced tons of supply chain issues. We do a lot of, retail sales. For, the last 25 years, we've done things exactly the same way. When it comes to, give an example, I'm staring in my office at a giant pile of remote starts. Typically, when remote start season starts, it's like October through February. I order 4 or 5 cases of units. I burn through half those. When I get down to half, I call my rep, I order another 4 or 5 cases, and we just keep it rolling like that over a 4 or 5 month period. He called me in July and said, hey, heads up, you're probably not going to have units available to install this year, so stock up on them now. So I have a massive pile of remote starts sitting in my office right now that I typically would never be sitting on that type of inventory, getting ready for, and hopefully I played that right. And I'm the only guy that has access to these, because electronics right now, availability of electronics is so hard with all the chip shortages and everything like that. So hopefully we get into mid remote start season, I'm fully stocked, ready to go, and I have units available, and I'm the only guy. So that's my play, and I've already planned on I'm probably going to, raise my prices, because I'm guessing I'm going to be the only guy in 2 months that has these things available, and it's either you come to me or you go without. So, again, being in an advantageous spot, but we have to constantly be changing things on the fly now with the pandemic and everything like that. So yeah, supply chain issues have been a huge problem.
Yeah, right now I had some meeting before I hopped on this call with somebody to install racks in our warehouse. We never had to do racking before, but we just need that extra space.
Yeah.
No, this is good stuff. A couple of things that I want to kind of shift us to start to think about the role of city government in this, and what role can government play in assisting with either startup, these sort of pivots that exist, even these scale up and merger and acquisition opportunities. And as we think about from a technology standpoint, you know, how can we leverage technology to assist small businesses? You know, what could be done? Yeah, because I've definitely, this being my first elected role, I don't have a like preconceived role of what the government should and shouldn't be doing, other than like running people's businesses. I don't think they should do that. But in terms of,
None of
I'm
the
pretty
previous
open.
leaders did either. Don't feel bad.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty open-minded about the role that we play in supporting small businesses, and really interested in ways that we maybe could challenge the norm in terms of, some mayors took a very hands-off approach to business, which I understand that philosophy totally. I understand, hey, leave business alone, let the market take care of the market, etc. But in my opinion, when the government is telling you you can't open your business, and when the government is telling you you have to do certain things, the government then needs to be on the other side of helping to remedy those decisions and helping businesses recover and become stronger and better due to decisions that we had to make. You know, so definitely would love to hear thoughts on the role that governments can play, and yeah.
I'll engage on that point, Frank.
Mhm.
And just pulling from some of the comments I've heard, thought that Irene had a great question on diversifying, and Jason talked about diversifying into other features. But I think the role of government can help local business owners diversify a different way, not in an additional service per se, and not diversify vertically in a traditional way, but diversify into a value proposition that has some digitalness to it. So for example, don't sell me on my car being clean, sell me how I'm going to feel that I look good because my car is clean, or that I am more confident that my car is clean, or that I'm more impressive that my car is clean. So when you start thinking about how to market your business or diversify into another value proposition, and you start to realize, gosh, maybe there's a digital way for me to offer something that helps my customer or user feel a certain way, which is really what I'm after. I really don't want a clean car. What I want to do is look good, or I want to impress somebody. That's really what I'm after.
Or I want to feel good. I know for me, when I get into my car and it's messy, it gives me a feeling. I feel like life is chaotic. When I get into a dirty car, I'm just like, man, I need to get my life together, you know? And so having a clean car, you kind of sit down and you're like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
things are
You got your
together,
stuff
you know, things are
together.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think of diversifying into additional value propositions. And I think the digital and the Internet of Things and stuff like that. And Irene can write books and books on that kind of stuff. But that's how I think a government can help that and help people prepare for the future, because a competitor is going to come in and figure that out, or a competitor in the city next door, the county next door. And if they figure that out and they're drawing customers because customers are feeling better about themselves, you got a marketing problem there and a business bottom line problem.
You know, one thing that we did some roundtables with some business owners with Data Swift over the summer, and we learned that a lot of our local businesses are making money based on customers that come from outside of the city, that come into the city to get services. And we talked about, if we could start to recycle the Elyria dollar more, that there could be an opportunity to capture more value for our local businesses, because so much of it is from the outside. And so that was one of the reasons why with Irene, one of their ideas was to create this app, this what we're calling the Ely Life app. Irene, do you want to talk about that app? Should be one of the ideas we talk about in the hackathon. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
Right. This is so what we have as an infrastructure, as you know, with personal data accounts, DataSwift doesn't really build, the application layer on top. What we've done was we created a passporting feature for every app or any app. So that means if you've got data, you can put it into people's personal data accounts, you can make a data pass out of it. And then this can be then shared on because you actually own it. That creates that portability of that data. So what is amazing we found, and this is where we found all over the world, data is really hard to move because of all the legalities that surround it, first party, second party, all these rights and things. Whereas if you give it back to the user and he gets to use it, he can then transact on it. And he's got lots that he can transact on. He can tell you stuff about him without even giving you identity. So in an Ely Life, for example, with the Elyria data passport, he could tell you I'm a resident. He could tell you that I own a house. He doesn't have to give you all his identity, but once he tells you that, and if it's verified, then you feel, you know what, I really want to give something for someone who is part of the local community or someone who is a mom of two because insurance managed to verify that. So what we do is we enable that data passporting. And so in Ely Life and in the data passport program, what we were trying to do is the first time we ever did, and this is something I really don't like to do. I don't like to build apps because I tell my team, I said, that's just making an enemy out of everybody because we want all the apps to come and build and have data passporting capability. Why would we go build an app and then compete with everybody? But in the case of Elyria and Ely Life, we found a very unique situation because it's a city and it's trying to modernize and it's trying to revitalize. So we thought, okay, you know what? Let's just do one for the city. And let's just try to use the data passes on it and thinking what kind of creative data passes the city can use so that this data can help with people. If you went to Norto, if you had with you, Jason, someone was once your customer, you could verify this person owns a Chevy or something. You could because you have that data of him bringing in that car. Someone across the city would really love to know that because maybe they do only things for Chevys, right? So that kind of affiliate community network can help transact more using data to just match things better. Because one of the biggest problems we have in advertising and marketing is they match really poorly. You pay tons of money and the people who come is like 2% of what you paid for. And if we match it better, you just save more money, you're more green, and you can help local businesses a little bit better. And so that's what we have. Now you're mute.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the ideas we put on the hackathon again on the 22nd through the 24th. This will be one of the ideas that a team will be formed around to help make this idea come to fruition. And so again, I hope that you all continue to join us for that hackathon. So we've heard two journeys. We've heard some pain points and opportunities. What are some ideas that you all have on ways that these American Rescue Plan funds, which are very flexible in terms of they can be used for grants, for loans, they can be used for incubators, they can be used for, it's pretty wide open on what these resources can be used for. Ideas that you all have on how these resources can be used to support small business and entrepreneurship.
Well, real quick, if I could, another thing that you could do then is just what you're already doing right now. Just having these roundtables, very helpful, because one of the other key things you've been talking about, and it keeps materializing here, just connections and networking. And if you just keep having these roundtables, people can say, hey, I know, like if there's a business you know that's either sell or shut the doors, 10-second overview, and chances are one of us might know somebody who might be interested. But just keep having these roundtables or masterminds, whatever you want to call them. What are you guys facing? Who can help?
Yep.
That's one of the big things, because you see everything, which is wonderful. But bringing other people together, just there's power in the network.
there's so many businesses in Elyria that don't know each other, and
You're a little bit low, Jason. Can you speak up a little bit?
all right, yeah, there's so many businesses in Elyria that are owned by people that don't know other business owners in Elyria. So, I mean, getting those people together is key. I try to meet as many people as possible. I pride myself in being informed and knowing who's who and so on and so forth. But, I have friends that are business owners that, I'm like, oh, call so-and-so at this, he'll take care of you. And they're like, oh, I don't know who that is. Well, having these connections is hugely helpful. And if you have those connections and you come across a business for sale or somebody struggling, you can offer, hey, so-and-so's roof has been leaking for the last 18 months. They're not a successful enough business to repair that on their own. However, I know the owner of George's Roofing. Maybe I can get those two together. Maybe they can work out a deal. So having that networking and having people physically, it's almost like Rotary. Rotary is full of business owners and local, successful people. Having something similar to Rotary specifically for business owners, specific to the area, would be helpful.
Yeah, great idea.
I was just thinking, Frank, that the Data Pass Network really can help matching businesses come together. I know, Jason, your business is actually one of the perks on the Data Passes for Elyria resident, and I thank you for that. Sorry, you're mute, so I can't hear you.
You got to scoot over some, Jason. It seems like when you scoot over to the middle, it comes in good.
How about that? Better?
Yep.
All right. So when I went to that meeting for the Ely Life thing, the Data Pass, I had never met the owner of Shibley Chemical, and they were there that day. Introduced myself, and they're a larger, not large, but I think they had 40 employees or something like that. It's a pretty good sized company in Elyria that I had never met the owner of. I knew what they did. I had heard of them before, but didn't know them, and I got to meet them that day. So yeah, very, very helpful. To other business owners, knowing other business owners. I just, if I just needed some landscaping work the other day, and I have 15 customers that are landscapers, so it's very helpful for me to know landscapers, or guys who plow, parking lots or any of that kind of stuff. That networking thing is very huge. So I would love to see some sort of program in place. It would not require a ton of funding, obviously, just to get people together and talk. So I mean, something like that would be great.
And when you said that, it made me also think about, from a technology standpoint, you're getting access to, like you said, plow companies, landscape companies. If there was a way that you could be an entree for folks to become a part of the network, you know what I mean? Like, as you're engaging with them for service, to say also, hey, why don't you download this app, or why don't you go on this website, or can I put your info in, and just start to get invited to these.
Running the community page, Connect Elyria, there's so many businesses on there that advertise. I talk to so many people because they have to go through a process to be able to advertise on the community page. So, when they go through that process, I have their info. I have, who they are, what their business is, their contact info. So, even just being in the know, if that's a thing, with my own business and running a community page, I know a lot of different people. And it's been so helpful to me over the years of, I just called Andy Culberson at Geisel the other day. My air conditioning broke. I know Andy, if I have a cell phone number, I call him, hey, can you come out and look at it? I mean, immediate. So I didn't call, a receptionist to sit on hold, to leave a message, to wait for somebody to call me back, because I know the person to call. It's no different than if you have an issue with a city service. If my trash doesn't get picked up, I'm calling Rodney. I know Rodney, that's who I worked with, that's who I'm calling. But I know that not everybody in the city has that benefit just because they don't do it, they don't know. So knowing people and that networking thing, it's so helpful at times in my life to be able to call somebody and say, hey, can you come fix this or come look at it?
I really love that, because in the other networks that we've been rolling out, one of the things that small businesses tell us is that when you've got a live Data Pass network, because it's a community of people who just look at, oh, I'm a resident, let's see what's available. And we thought it would be, oh, I can get a freebie, like a Groupon or coupon. Actually, what it turned out was that because the businesses could just target a certain type of person that I am, the consumer is, they started to modify what they could do. So some of the businesses then said, you know, because I can get retirees, verified retirees on the data pass. I know you're retired because the source of the data is the insurance company that verified. I can say, if you're retired, come to my shop and I give you something more. And what I then they started to say, we were more intelligent with how we moved our stock, because we knew we had a direct line to different target consumers.
I use Facebook advertising all the time, specifically because I can target my customer. You know, there's certain services that I offer that, you know, are males 25 to 45, you know, so I can say, okay, you know, I haven't seen a ton of people from North Ridgeville lately, you know, and I can target that advertising only in this zip code, only for males, only in this age group, and it works perfectly. You know, why would I continue to advert? And I still do, because I'm loyal to them, but I advertise in our local newspaper. But I'm just throwing money away, because, you know, their circulation is 13,000, but only 3,000 of that 13,000 would be interested in spending money in my store. So I'm just wasting money, you know, advertising with them. And I only do it because I have a relationship with the newspaper people and so on and so forth. And it's not a ton of money, but, you know, it certainly, it does not return results like my targeted Facebook advertising does.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Well, really happy to hear that, because it really makes a data pass network really can make a difference.
Yeah, I had asked a bunch of, and I figured that's what you guys were going after was data collection and be able to use that data to benefit the businesses involved.
Yeah, exactly. Hyper local better matching. Hyper local better matching. That's what we're trying
100%.
to get to. And so,
100%.
we just need to get started.
Yeah, data is so valuable nowadays, and I mean, there's big companies out there paying large sums of money to have, you know, the data on their customers, you know, and I want to know anything from what time of the day they shop online to, you know, what they're buying and so on and so forth. So it's hugely useful.
Well, this has been a great discussion, and again, this is just a good entree for us to prepare for the hackathon. We actually got some good ideas here around the networking. That'll be an idea we put into the ecosystem around Elyria specific networking, and how can we enhance more networking amongst the small businesses, the small grants for startups. It sounds like 10,000 or less would be something significant. That's will be an idea that'll get submitted into the hackathon as well. And again, we encourage you all to join us October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. It's not full days each day. So if you go on cityofelyria.org, there's a schedule of what the hackathon will be. And again, appreciate y'all having lunch with me today. Tomorrow's discussion, we're talking about community violence prevention, I believe. Is that true? Yeah, so we're talking about how do we, in this moment, use these resources to prevent violence and prevent crime in the city, and then for other cities to learn as well how these resources can be used. So again, appreciate y'all taking time with me today. This has been super helpful, inspiring, and looking forward to seeing you out at the hackathon.
Thank you for doing this.
Appreciate it, guys. Nice meeting everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.